All right. Welcome to Bethlehem students. So glad you guys are with us. If you do not know me, my name is Spencer. I'm one of our student pastors on staff, and I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. We are in our Kingdom Culture series. So kind of what we've been talking about is this comparison between cancel culture and kingdom culture. But to kind of set up tonight, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to a lot of your hearts. Something is happening on Sunday. It's a particular holiday. What holiday is it? Valentine's Day. It's a wonderful day, isn't it? It's split right down the middle. Some of us love it, some of us don't. But in honor of Valentine's Day, I have a question. I do not want you to raise your hands. I do not want you to answer. I do not want you to name any names, specifically the last one. But how many of you guys have ever witnessed a bad breakup? Ooh. Like a nasty one. You know what I'm talking about. There was like this weird murmur that went across the room as soon as I said it. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Now, they can get kind of nasty, right? A little bit, especially in high school, they can be a little nasty. And if you've ever been blessed enough, I use blessed lightly, but if you've ever been blessed enough to be in one of these nasty breakups, you know it kind of happens in stages. I'm just looking at everybody, man. It happens in stages. Don't look over there, I promise. But it happens in stages. Like you have the depressed stage. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. The depressed stage. I call this the sweatpants and ice cream stage. Okay, where you're just kind of emotionally eating. I didn't need a breakup to do the emotional eating thing. I just did that on my own. You have the denial stage. You have the bargaining stage. This is when you're trying to like make deals. Like it's like, if I do this, they'll take me back. Like you got that. But when you think about a nasty breakup, there's one stage out of all of these stages of grief that sticks out the most, and it's the anger phase, right? This is the one where the angry text messages come, when the weird stuff happens in the hall. I had my best friend, and I don't know how this happened. They were in high school. He should have listened to me. I told him never to date this girl anyway. But they break up, and his heart's broken. He thought it was going to be his wife, and then they broke up senior year. And I remember going into a basketball game. Neither of them went to this school. Okay, we're going to this basketball game. We're walking into the gym, and her mom is in there for some reason. She stands up in the crowd and goes, "There's the liar!" and just starts screaming at him. And it was this random thing, but like there's this anger phase where you think every single thing they ever did was wrong, and you're like criticizing every single thing about them. And if you think about cancel culture, that if there was a phase that cancel culture just really fit in a relationship, it'd be during that anger phase of the breakup, right? That's typically where you want to cancel somebody. That's where you want to get rid of them. That's where you want to hurt them. And that's really what cancel culture is. Like if we're going to lay out the difference between kingdom culture and cancel culture, kingdom culture is loving other people, sharing grace, going that way. Cancel culture is they hurt me, so destroy them. Okay? Destroy them. That's what we want to do. And it revolves around this idea that we can stop someone, we can push them back, we can no longer recognize them, we can cancel them. Now, Jesus on the side of that is he didn't cancel people. Jesus didn't cancel people. He was for all people, even when he probably shouldn't be. Okay? Jesus didn't cancel people. He was for all people, even the ones he probably shouldn't be. And as we try to look at the difference between kingdom culture and cancel culture and the culture that we're currently living in, that's really what we're going to talk today. That's what we're going to spend some time. We want to be countercultural in the ways that we love people. We want to be countercultural in the ways that we interact with people, in the ways that we forgive people. When the world wants to cancel somebody, we want to offer grace, because that's the same thing that was offered to us. Last week, we talked about how Jesus was canceled for us. We deserved punishment. We deserved death. We deserved his unforgiveness, but instead, Jesus offered us grace. And in the very same vein, that's what we are called to actually give to other people. So today, we're going to actually look at a story in Scripture. And this is one that some of you might not have heard, but it's a very potent one, and it's a very important one to really understand the heart of Jesus and how he kind of attacks this particular thing. So in this particular point in Jesus' life, the place we're at today, Jesus has started to get a rep. Okay, he's got a reputation. He's known for hanging out with people that he probably shouldn't, because he's offering faith, he's offering hope, he's offering love, he's offering grace, and he's calling people to repentance, but he's not judging them. And there's a difference. Like, he's not accepting the sin that's in their life, but he's still loving those people. And he's including people in these messages, in these groups, in these followers of him that the other people would call undesirable. Okay, the Pharisees, the religious leaders of these days, outcast these people, like exiled these people, segregated these people, and thought they were lesser than, and Jesus would actually invite them in. And it really irritated them. So in this situation that you see in John 8, Jesus actually, they throw him a curveball. They try to stump him. And he's teaching to a crowd, but they kind of force a situation on him to see kind of how he's going to handle it. So it starts in John 8, verse 1, and this is what it says. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and he taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who was caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. What do you say?" This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail on this. You guys can figure it out for yourselves. But this woman was caught in the act of adultery. They see her in the midst of this. They grab her in that moment, throw her out in the street in front of a boatload of people. She's feeling shame. She's feeling embarrassed. She's horrified. And what they do is they straight up say, "Jesus, what are you going to do here?" And Jesus is caught in a pickle. Okay? If you don't know what pickle is, it's a baseball term. It goes back and forth. He's caught in a pickle here. He's known for showing grace, but you also have the Old Testament law here. So if he offers this woman grace, he's throwing God's law out and not listening to what God has commanded them to do. But if he chooses to follow the law here, he's not loving anymore. And that's the message that all of his followers have started following him for. So he's in a hard situation. And this is why I love Jesus. Because I want you guys to look at what he does here. Okay? It says at the end of verse 6 that he bent down and he starts drawing in the dirt. Like, they've thrown this giant thing at him. They've thrown him this crazy situation. And instead of answering them, he literally just gets down, just starts drawing. And I legitimately want to know what he was drawing there. I want to know. Like, I've had professors, we talked about this in college, and they had these big thoughts. They're like, he was writing down the sins of all of the people that were around, or he was writing the name of the guy that was in the situation, or I kind of think he could have just drawn a smiley face. I don't know. You really don't know. But he just starts drawing. Jesus knows their heart. He knows what they're doing. And he doesn't want to dignify them with a response. Okay? So he just kind of blows them off. Look how it continues. It says, and as they continued to ask him, they kept peppering him with questions. He stood up and he said to them, "Let he who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And then once more, he gets down and starts writing on the ground. This is a statement every single person in here needs to remember. This is a statement that sticks. Yes, this woman had done something wrong. But this is the key to the message last week. So have you. Yes, this woman had done something wrong. Yes, something bad had happened. But every single person here is messed up too. And they are wanting judgment. They are being hate-filled, wanting to cancel this woman. And instead of giving into that, Jesus is offering grace. And he's reminding them that every single one of you has messed up, just like she has. Does Jesus have the authority to condemn her? Probably. But he's choosing not to. And in the climate our culture is in right now, this is something that a lot of us need to remember. Our culture is so quick to attack, and we're so slow to offer grace and forgiveness. We're so quick to tear somebody down that we don't like, but we never actually give somebody an opportunity for redemption, to change their heart, to change their life. We just want to tear them down and erase them before there's any chance of reconciliation. And that's something we need to learn from. Look what happens here. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. And Jesus stood up and he said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Now go, and on from now, sin no more." And there's three major things I want you guys to see here. So if you're taking notes, these are the three things I want you guys to remember about this passage. Number one, the older people left first. There's a real reason for this. The older people left first. And you can kind of see this in this room. The seniors versus the freshmen. The seniors in this room realize that they don't have everything figured out a little bit more than the freshmen. Okay? The older people in the room, the adults that have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, some of the adults in here, we really know we don't have it all figured out. We know how messed up we are. And the longer you live your life, the more you're going to realize, I don't have this thing figured out. So what happens is Jesus tells them, "He who is out without sin, throw the first stone." And you have the 60 and 70-year-olds in that little circle that have stones in their hands. They're just like, well, and they just walk off. And it started with the older people, and slowly this giant mob who all have stones in their hands, who are ready to annihilate this woman, they just drop the rocks and they go. And the key here is to know that you don't have it all figured out. You are not sinless, you are not perfect. And every other person in here deserves the same grace that you've been offered. Okay, so if you have a relationship with Jesus, if God has saved your soul, that does not make you better than the next person. They are just as lost as you used to be. So you are called to forgive them, to love them, to offer that same grace. Okay, number two, Jesus forgives her. Jesus forgives her. He looks at this woman after this moment. She has done something wrong. She was caught doing something that is against the 10 Commandments. Okay? Jesus looks at her and is like, "Has anybody condemned you?" She's like, "No, they're all gone." He's like, "I don't condemn you either." He offers grace. Okay, he offers grace. He offers a chance for redemption. But here's the third thing, and this is the biggest piece. He challenges her to change. He challenges her to change. We can love somebody and not agree with them. We can love somebody and disagree with their lifestyle. We can love somebody and disagree with how they choose to act in certain situations. But the key is to love them and challenge them to something greater. We can challenge them to something greater. Jesus doesn't give this woman a free pass to continue what she was doing. He challenges her to change her life. So why is this important? How does this apply to us? Like, that's the big thing that we try to do. Because here's the biggest thing. If we're truly following Jesus, we are called to love the people around us, even if we disagree with them. If we truly are following Jesus, we are called to love the people around us, even if we disagree with them. God actually lays this out in 1 John chapter 4. It says, we love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he's a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother. We are called to love. Jesus says you will know his followers by the way that they love the people around them, the way they sacrificially care for the people around them. If we love people the way that God has commanded to us, our communities are going to change. Our schools are going to change. That's when people look at Christianity and go, I want to be a part of that. Like, if you're wondering how to change your school, if you're wondering how to actually lead people to Jesus, it starts by actually loving people and caring for people. If you look at Acts, one of the major things that happens at the beginning of the church is like, one, they're devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching. They're devoting themselves to prayer and communion and fellowship. Like, they're doing all these things. But one of the things that happened was they started taking care of each other. Like, they started selling things. Like, there's this guy, like, hypothetically, that has an extra car, and he's like, I'll sell it and give the money to the poor. And like, they're giving things away. They're helping people out who don't have a place to live. They're feeding the widows. They're feeding the orphans. And people are looking at this and they're like, these people are different. I want to be a part of that. So you had Jews and Gentiles who were so different from one another, who had completely different religious practices. Those people start to meet with each other under the same roof because they were loving each other. And even though people were making mistakes, even though people were messed up, they were still offering grace. They were still offering forgiveness. People in your schools, they see how you treat people. And if you're treating people the way that God has called us to, if you're being a part of a kingdom culture, they're going to want to be a part of it. They're going to ask you questions about why you live the way you do, why you act the way you act. And you'll start to see God change their heart because of it. Okay? You can be right, but if you don't love people, nobody's even going to care. Paul puts it this way. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It says, if I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but I didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all of his knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but I didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it, but if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. This is what it means to be for all people. Like we've shown you guys the shirts we're giving you next week. I'm rocking the shirt right now. The biggest thing right in the middle of it is that we are for all people. That's something that is so important to us. It's on the walls of our church. It's on the t-shirts. It's on our website. Like, this is something we are devoted to. And the reason we are devoted to it is this. Jesus loved us so much, he was willing to die for us. He was willing to die for us. And if he was willing to offer us that grace, we should be called to offer that same grace to other people. So there's some of us in here that you feel like that woman. You feel like you've made mistakes that are unforgivable. You have this burden, this weight that just sits on you all the time. Jesus still loves you. Jesus still offers you that love. He still offers you that grace. He still cares about you. He was still willing to die for you. But there's a lot of people in the room. You're the people that were holding stones. And you're very quick to cast that stone at people when really you should be offering grace. You should be offering forgiveness. You should be offering that person a chance to come to church, to spend time with you. You should be offering that person friendship. If there's anything that we want you guys to be devoted to, is we want this ministry to be a ministry for all people. We want it to be a safe place for people to come when they have questions. But if we're judging the people that come in, they're not going to come. And if they don't come, they're not going to hear the gospel. They're not going to hear about what Jesus has done for them. And they're never going to have that chance for redemption. There's that person in your school that you have a hard time thinking God can do anything in their life. It's time to let go of that stone. It's time to let that rock go and offer grace instead. So right now, what I want to do as the band starts coming out is I want to take a little bit of time. A lot of us need to ask for repentance right now. A lot of us need to take those stones that we've been holding ready to cast at people, let that bitterness that we've been holding inside towards different people, we need to take those stones, we need to put them down. We need to ask God to forgive us. We need to ask God to help us change the way we see other people. That we would see those other people the way that he sees us. That we could see them the way he sees us. Loved, cherished, and worth dying for. So what I want to do right now, I want everybody to bow their heads. We're going to worship here in a second, but before we get into it, I want you to just mentally, not out loud, but I want you to mentally just say to God, forgive me. I lay down my stones. I lay down my bitterness. I give all of that stuff to you. I pray for new lenses. I pray for new eyesight. Help me see people the way that you see them. Help me love people the way that you love them. And the band is going to start playing here in a second. But I want to take this time, and I want you guys to just pray for forgiveness over these different situations that happen in your life. And when you're done, when you're ready, I want you to stand and I want you to worship your guts out. I want you to sing with everything you have. But let's get our minds, let's get our hearts, let's get our souls ready for that moment before we step into it. So I'm going to pray. You're going to pray. And then we're going to worship. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this opportunity to love you, to spend time with you. And God, I pray for the way we see other people. For the people in our lives that are just hard to love. They're hard to like. They're hard to be around. And God, I pray that you would change the way we see them, that we would see these people the way that you see them, that they are willing, they are worth dying for, that they are worth loving, that they are worth sacrificing for. So God, as we see them in school, as we see them on our teams, I pray that we would reach out to them, that we would offer them that grace, that we would offer them that redemption. And that through that, God, you would change their life. That you would use us to make a difference. So God, we thank you so much for this opportunity to work.